The integrity of the 2026 championship now rests on a private FIA ruling. That ruling cleared the Mercedes engine as fully legal. Rivals had alleged it exploited Article C5, 4.3 to run higher compression. They claimed the ratio approached 18,001 at operating temperature. This alleged advantage has already reshaped the title fight. Andrea Kimi Antonelli now holds a 50-point championship lead. He has secured 6 wins without any points stripped. No results have been overturned despite the formal protests. Honda, Ferrari, and Audi remain convinced the unit was non-compliant. They believe it passed cold inspections but failed when hot. The open question still hangs over every remaining race. Did secret hot temperature tests validate clever engineering within rules? Or did they expose a severe regulatory blind spot instead? The governing body had to rewrite measurement methods mid-season. They acted just to stop the bleeding without admitting fault. Rivals challenged Mercedes over this specific thermal expansion behavior. Original regulations only checked compression at ambient temperature. The limit was set at a maximum 16:0 ratio. This created a window for engineered internal components. Parts could expand significantly under extreme heat. Some estimates peg the gain at 13 horsepower. 10 to 13 horsepower is enormous in Formula 1. It changes everything about competitive balance on track. Yet a major twist complicates this entire narrative today. MotorBiscuit framed this as the definitive 130 dosea loophole. But GP fans published evidence explicitly disproving those compression allegations. Specialist media cannot agree if the advantage existed. This editorial split is central to understanding the situation. The private legality finding failed to silence paddock whispers. The unanimous e-vote changed rules from June 1 onward. It feels less like resolution and more like ceasefire. What exactly did those secret checks reveal to officials? Why did the outcome lead to forward-looking rule changes? The FIA confirms significant effort went into finding solutions. They invested heavily in resolving the compression ratio topic. The resulting compromise controls compression in both conditions now. Hot and cold measurements apply for remainder of 2026. Testing shifts to hot only at 120 degrees from 2027. Notice what that official statement does not contain. There is no quantified performance benefit listed anywhere. There is no admission of prior illegality stated publicly. Only a procedural fix approved unanimously by 5 manufacturers. We must wonder if Mercedes found a genuine legal edge. Or did politics outweigh the desire for forensic truth? Avoiding a championship deciding disqualification may have been priority. That tension makes Antonelli's historic lead incredibly fragile. His 219 points were scored in a contested car. Fundamental legality remains permanently debated in public opinion. The technical crux of this controversy lies entirely within the metallurgy of the combustion chamber itself. Article C5 3 established a hard ceiling for geometric compression. That ceiling was exactly 16, 0 for any single cylinder. Inspectors originally verified this dimension only when engines were cold. Ambient temperature checks became the sole compliance standard. Mercedes engineers reportedly identified a gap in that verification protocol. Internal components were allegedly selected for specific thermal properties. These materials expanded significantly once heat soaks through the block. A legal cold measurement could mask a non-compliant hot reality. Operating temperatures pushed the effective ratio toward 18,001. This 2-point jump represents a massive thermodynamic shift. Higher compression extracts more energy from every fuel droplet. It directly translates to torque and peak power output. The physics are undeniable even if the intent is debated. MotorBiscuit branded this engineering approach as the 130 dC loophole. That specific temperature threshold matters immensely here. It is the exact point where expansion theoretically maximized performance. Rivals suspected this advantage existed long before protests filed. They watched Mercedes' straight-line speed with growing suspicion. Data traces suggested an efficiency others could not match. Honda, Ferrari, and Audi eventually forced the FIA's hand. Formal challenges demanded scrutiny beyond the original cold test. They knew ambient checks missed the actual racing condition. An engine never runs at room temperature during competition. Why should legality be determined by a state it never inhabits? This question exposed a fundamental flaw in 2026 enforcement. New power unit formulas always invite creative interpretation. Electrical components increased dramatically compared to previous generations. Less precedent existed for how thermal dynamics would be policed. Clever engineering often looks like cheating until proven otherwise. Rules define boundaries but cannot predict every material science advance. Thermal expansion is a known physical phenomenon in motorsport. Exploiting it requires precise manufacturing tolerances and simulation. Was this a masterclass in regulatory reading or bad faith? The answer depends entirely on who you ask in the paddock. Some view it as the essence of Formula 1 innovation. Others see it as undermining fair sporting competition. The distinction between genius and gamesmanship remains blurred. No penalty was applied because no rule explicitly forbade expansion. Legality and fairness are not always synonymous concepts. This tension fueled the pressure for immediate regulatory intervention. Private assurances of legality did little to quell rival anger. Trust in the technical delegates' oversight began eroding rapidly. Everyone wanted independent verification of what was really happening inside those cylinders. So where does that leave our understanding of the alleged advantage right now? We know the theoretical mechanism, but lack confirmed proof of execution. Estimates suggest a 10 to 13 horsepower gain under specific conditions. That figure comes from rival analysis and media speculation. The FIA has never publicly validated that performance delta. Their statement addressed measurement methodology exclusively. Quantifying the benefit would imply acknowledging past wrongdoing indirectly. Silence on the numbers maintains plausible deniability for all parties, yet the competitive impact was visible on circuit timing screens. Antonelli's 6 wins occurred during the period of maximum uncertainty. Each victory added weight to the suspicion surrounding his car. Whether earned through talent alone or aided by thermal tricks remains contested. The 133cc loophole narrative persists regardless of official findings. It has become inseparable from Mercedes' 2026 championship campaign. Future historians will debate this moment for decades to come. Picture this for a second. You are a rival team principal watching your championship hopes evaporate on straightaways. You had spent millions developing your own power unit within the same rulebook. Your telemetry shows a deficit you cannot explain through aerodynamics or tire management alone. The only logical conclusion points to something hidden inside the opponent's engine block. Trust in the regulatory system becomes your only lifeline. That emotional weight drove Honda, Ferrari, and Audi to demand action. They could not accept private assurances or vague technical bulletins. Formal challenges forced the FIA into an unprecedented position. Secret hot temperature compression checks were conducted away from public view. This was not a standard post-race scrutineering procedure. It was a targeted forensic investigation prompted by manufacturer pressure. The stakes demanded absolute certainty about what was happening at operating temperature. The outcome of those clandestine tests surprised many in the paddock. Officials privately informed Mercedes that their engine remained fully legal. The unit complied with regulations as they existed during testing. No infringement notice was issued following the examination. No performance data was confiscated or published. The private legality finding stood firm despite rival suspicions. This created a paradox that frustrated competing manufacturers intensely. How could something so controversial be simultaneously compliant? The answer lies in the precise wording of Article C5. 3. Rules define compliance based on specified measurement conditions. If the specification only mentions ambient temperature, then ambient is law. Thermal behavior at 130 degrees existed outside the written boundary. Legality is the binary state determined by text, not intent. Mercedes had navigated that textual landscape with extreme precision. Their engineers understood exactly where the line was drawn. Silence followed the private ruling. No press release detailed the findings. No technical directive clarified the interpretation publicly. The FIA maintained confidentiality throughout the entire process. Rivals received confirmation but no explanatory documentation. This opacity bred further distrust rather than resolution. Teams wondered if political considerations influenced the outcome. Avoiding mid-season championship chaos may have been prioritized over transparency. A disqualification would have created unprecedented sporting and legal fallout. Sponsors, broadcasters, and fans despise retroactive result changes. The governing body faced immense pressure to find a diplomatic path forward. Private clearance served that immediate stabilization need perfectly. It allowed competition to continue without interrupting the narrative, yet it left fundamental questions about enforcement philosophy unanswered. Was this a triumph of engineering creativity or regulatory failure? The distinction mattered less than maintaining season integrity in the moment. So what actually changed after those secret checks concluded? The private ruling did not end the controversy as hoped. Instead, it accelerated demands for procedural reform. Everyone recognized the existing measurement protocol was insufficient. Future compliance required verification under actual racing conditions. The FIA acknowledged significant effort invested in finding solutions. Their official statement confirmed work toward a compromise approach. That compromise would redefine how compression ratio gets controlled going forward. But the damage to trust had already occurred. Private legality and public confidence proved incompatible concepts. Mercedes retained their results while rivals retained their doubts. This uneasy equilibrium defined the remainder of the first half. Every subsequent podium finish carried an asterisk in competitor minds. The secret checks resolved nothing except the immediate crisis. Deeper structural issues about rule interpretation remained unaddressed. Only a formal regulation change could provide lasting clarity for all parties involved. Remember how this all started, with the FIA privately clearing the Mercedes engine as fully legal under the regulations as they stood at the time. That initial finding created an impossible political deadlock that only a unanimous regulatory rewrite could break. All 5 power unit manufacturers approved the solution via electronic vote. The FIA described this approval as completely unanimous across the grid. No team held out or demanded further concessions during negotiations. The compromise mandated dual-condition compression measurements starting June 1, 2026. Inspectors must now verify ratios in both cold and hot states. This closed the thermal expansion window permanently for the current season. From 2027 onward, testing shifts exclusively to operating conditions at 130 degrees Celsius. Ambient checks will cease entirely once teams adapt to the new standard. The transition period acknowledges practical implementation challenges for every manufacturer. Nobody wanted to repeat the ambiguity of the first half. Rules changed, but history remained untouched. No championship points were stripped from Mercedes as part of this deal. Past results stood exactly as recorded on track. The resolution was deliberately forward-looking rather than punitive. Retroactive penalties would have triggered endless legal appeals and sponsor disputes. A clean slate approach preserved commercial stability over forensic justice. Rivals accepted this trade-off to secure future competitive parity. They gained certainty going forward at the cost of past grievances. The e-vote mechanism itself signaled unprecedented manufacturer alignment. Normally, rule changes require lengthy technical advisory committee debates. Digital consensus accelerated implementation before the summer break arrived. Speed mattered more than perfection in this specific moment. Delaying the fix risked further erosion of sporting credibility. Every team recognized the urgent need for restored trust through procedure. Toto Wolff publicly pushed back against rival complaints throughout this dispute. Headlines attributed strong language to him regarding competitor preparedness. Whether those words were accurately reported remains unverified by direct sources. What is confirmed is his consistent defense of Mercedes' engineering integrity. He maintained the team operated within established boundaries at all times. That stance never wavered even as rules evolved around them. Public confidence required projecting certainty despite private uncertainties. Team principals must balance technical advocacy with diplomatic relationships. Wolff navigated that tension while protecting his driver's championship position. Antonelli's lead depended partly on avoiding distraction from regulatory noise. Stability off-track enabled focus during critical race weekends. The compromise ultimately served Mercedes' interests as much as anyone else's.